My husband said to him, she must make fire. He made that fire. And then I start to take the washing off the line and get inside. And they were sitting on the corner. Outside it was a sort of a rockery. They just disappeared there until today.
Do you know what happened to them?
No.
Did you hear anything?
No. And after a week, it was Tuesday morning. I was still sleeping. I had somebody knock at the door. He said to me, those children, they're all dead. Kwandebele. So we said, okay, it's all right. The next day, we go to government mortuary. And when we come there, what we have seen, it was disgrace. We couldn't identify anybody who is who because the ash was running on top of the water, the pieces of these children. We were so deep in the water to see those bent bones. So just those bent bones. We didn't know was Mbuso or was Jimmy or was who. I said, after we got out the government mortuary, I said, was it me? All these mother's child, we had only buy 2 boxes and take these bones together, just share them in these 2 boxes and go and bury them. That's all. And it's that time when the police and the soldiers were so rude that time. We buried them very heavy because this time we were standing outside and then the Koyoko come, then the police come. They just want to kill. We mustn't be group. We mustn't be group. Just, I don't know how can I say it. That year was a bad year. It was a very bad year to us.
The
next witness is Mrs. Mabel Morahola. Mrs. Morahola, welcome. And I want to make absolutely sure that you can hear me through the headphones. Can you hear me all right? Mrs. Malabola, you are one of many people who were involved in the Quadbella massacre, where many, many people lost their lives. One of them was your grandson. You come to tell us your story today. Could you please stand to take the oath? Do you swear that the evidence you give before this commission will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you very much. Please be seated and make yourself comfortable. Before I call the next witness, I would like to...
My sugar to come up again, because we see things that we never saw before. It wasn't nice.
Do you feel better now that you had the chance to speak about it?
You know, it's not nice when the children come to you, they visit, and then after that, they just disappear. And then when you're going to find them, they're dead, and you can't identify. You couldn't identify your body. It was just bones, black bones, bent until there wasn't meat like this. No. And they didn't have heads, arms, foot, just ash. It wasn't nice. Because when they come there were people, those they have got to escape, see, to go and learn MK. And they say to them, they offer them 600 rand a month. They said, oh, and then we've got work, They were happy. They didn't know they're going to die. They were happy. If they know they were going to die, they wouldn't go to him.
What do you think?
I'm not safe. My home is not safe. That I must say it, and the public must know. I am not safe. At night, they can throw a petrol bomb. I can bang with my children, my grandchildren in there. I'm not safe.
So there's still a lot of things that you don't really feel happy about.
Yes.
I remember at the time of negotiations,
Au moment des négociations, il était absolument clair qu'on ne pouvait pas donner à l'ancien régime une amnistie de principe générale pour ces violations des droits de l'homme. Si on regarde l'amendement à la Constitution qui a été ajouté, tout ce qu'il apporte, c'est un mécanisme pour la création d'une loi d'amnistie. Il n'est pas question d'enquête sur les violations des droits de l'homme. Beaucoup craignaient que l'amnistie profite aux coupables et pas vraiment aux victimes. Le ministre de la Justice était résolu dès le début à éviter une situation de type Salvador ou Chili, où on ne s'est intéressé qu'à un point de vue, pas à l'autre. Ça faisait partie du compromis politique. Il n'y avait ni vainqueur ni vaincu. Ça aurait mieux valu pour les victimes. Ça aurait été mieux qu'il y ait un vainqueur bien défini. Parce que ce sont elles qui payent le prix le plus élevé. Elles perdent le droit de poursuivre les criminels. Elles perdent le droit à une indemnisation juridique. C'est le pire abus de justice ou déni de justice qui soit. C'est un des aspects du problème. L'autre aspect est plus courant dans un régime comme le nôtre, qui a été au pouvoir pendant 40 ans. Quels documents a-t-on pour poursuivre ces individus? C'est le cœur du problème. Par ailleurs, qui va-t-on poursuivre? Les lampistes, ceux qui exécutent les ordres, mais les responsables assis derrière leur bureau qui signent le papier, qui autorisent tout ça, qui dégagent les fonds pour les opérations secrètes, on ne les atteint jamais. Je crois que cette commission est une tentative pour comprendre en profondeur ce qui est arrivé aux individus à travers le fonctionnement du système.
We've been damaged cells here. Yeah, we've been fucked up here by the white of South Africa. Just because we are the ANC members and for the civic organization.
So those electric shocks on the
yeah, it's also on the walls. I said, moving this side, I don't know. Someday they've been taking it away. Okay. They took it out. So there was a plug somewhere.
Okay.
And when they hung out in Ultra, they were sitting down.
Yeah.
There was a window here. Was for backup proofs. The same as the other ones because they were using both of the rooms.
Yeah.
Torturing us here.
Okay.
The other two here, the other two that side.
Okay.
We were always 4 in number.
Always?
Yeah.
Okay.
Before they separated us.
Okay.
So sometimes we used to touch at that other side. The exchanges.
Oh, okay. Those electric shocks were plugged in both
places.
Both places.
You've been choked at all these places.
So Stanza was also.
He was also here in Vietnam.
Okay.
Together with some other guy. I used to call him Edwin.
Edwin. But is he alive? Still alive?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Even around there, you can even see there is some plastic for the biscuits they used to add by that time. The police added the force itself. You were having a party here while Stanza and his colleague was busy digging up the grave for themselves. Immediately after they got drunk and then they just shot to the people to get the guys there in the grave. Then these other people, these other police staff members, the black people, they put the soil back to the hole over the using the black plastic bags for the municipal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We start in the Kwandebele 9, Mr. Chairman.
Goed, kaptein Hegter, kan u op bladsy 76 van die eerste paragraaf vir ons voorlees asseblief?
Nadat Mandela my meegedeel het dat die aktiviste opleiding ontvang het en hulle uit hul eie versoek het om intensiewe opleiding in die buiteland te ondergaan, het ek besluit dat die regte tyd was om hulle nou te elimineer. Ek, mens Gous en Oosthuizen, wie almal by die moord en roof tak Pretoria was, versoek om saam met my te gaan en om my behulpsaam te wees met die eliminasie. Wanneer spesifiek ek hulle versoek het en hulle die detail meegedeel het, weet ek nie. Ek weet egter dat Gous en Oosthuizen, en dan het die aard van die saak Mama Sella gesê het, hulle wil graag die skietwerk doen. Aangesien ons net 3 gewere beskikbaar gehad het, het hulle gesê hulle sal graag die skietwerk wil doen. Het ek toe buite gestaan buite by presies waar weet ek nie, ek voor die deur, by die huis, by die hek, ek kan nie onthou nie. Mama Sella, Gous en Oosthuizen is toe in, en die volgende oomblik het ek net die skote hoor klap. Dit was gereël geweest, dit was in my opdrag geweest. Ek het gesê hulle moet hulle gaan elimineer. Hulle het hulle toe geëlimineer, doodgeskiet, uitgekom, in die kar geklim, ek het vir Gous opdrag gegee om die kan petrol te neem en oor al die oorledenes te gooi, aan die brand te steek, sodat dit moet lyk soos wat die jeugdiges op daardie stadium met hulle vyande gemaak het. As hulle geëlimineer het, het hulle aan die brand gesteek. So alle moontlike leidrade was ook vernietig gewees. Ons is toe weer met die voertuig weg. Ons het die toneel verlaat en nie weer teruggegaan soontoe nie. Ons is terug na ons kantore by die veiligheidstak, waar ons weer met ons normale...
Kaptein, toe die persone aan die brand gesteek is. Die stadium toe die persone aan die brand gesteek is. Weet jy of hulle reeds dood was op daardie stadium? Kan jy enige uitspraak gee daaroor?
Daar was 3 AK-47 gewere op hulle leeggemaak, wat meen om by 90 rond is in 'n klein kamertjie. So daar was geen twyfel dat hulle almal reeds dood was nie. Of ja.
Goed.
Did these people die because they were involved in acts of boycotts, intimidation, and so on? Or did they die because they had expressed a wish or desire to undergo training? Why did they die? in your own mind? When you went out to eliminate them, why did you do
Ek verstaan wat u vir my vra. Eerstens was hulle aktiviste gewees. Hulle was aktiviste besig met al hierdie vreeslike optredes. En verder, so die eliminasie was 'n preemptive strike gewees om te verhoed dat opgeleide mense terugkom.
You've come here to apply for amnesty. What you want is for this committee to give you a pardon, so to say, an amnesty for the deeds you did. The one thing that I have not heard, and that the families of those who perished have not heard, when you have been led by my learned friend, or at any stage during my questioning or the questioning of the committee.
Voorsitter, kan ek die Here antwoord? As u hier was, meneer, sou u al by verskeie geleenthede gehoor het dat ons die mense van Suid-Afrika, nie net hierdie ongelukkige familie nie, die mense van Suid-Afrika, almal wat deur my en my kollegas se dade geraak is, om verskoning gevra het. Hierdie mense kom nou hier aan. Ek is seker hulle sou al reeds op TV dit gesien het. Dit is ook gebeeldsend op TV, die feit dat ons hulle om verskoning gevra het.
There was this evidence generally about remorse on their part for what they had done.
Oh, my instructions certainly are that as far as this group is concerned,
they were not aware of it.
Chairperson, it's for you to decide whether the level of remorse that's been shown is sufficient or not. Our argument will certainly be that it doesn't go far enough.
Yes.
As it pleases you, I have no further questions.
Thank you very much.
Tout ce qu'ils veulent, c'est d'être blanchis pour leurs crimes. Il suffit que je demande l'amnistie et j'aurai l'amnistie. Je ne suis pas obligé de regarder en arrière, ni de voir ce que sont devenus les parents ou les femmes de ceux que j'ai assassinés. C'était censé être un processus auquel les coupables eux-mêmes devaient participer au sein des communautés qu'ils avaient détruites. Pendant le processus d'amnistie, comme les audiences avaient lieu en plein centre-ville, nous pensions que toute la communauté, disons une grande partie de la communauté blanche, allait venir aux audiences. Ils auraient dû venir écouter ce que les gens avaient fait. Malheureusement, ils n'ont pas été très nombreux. D'après ce que j'ai vu, il n'y avait pas beaucoup de blancs. Si je me souviens bien, il n'y en avait que 4 ou 5. La réconciliation est l'aboutissement d'une attitude volontariste, alors qu'elle ne devrait pas être imposée aux gens, qu'on ne devrait pas se sentir forcé de se réconcilier. Même si les Afrikaners nous ont fait beaucoup de mal, nous pouvons nous asseoir avec eux ou avec n'importe quel membre des autres communautés. Ce n'est pas parce que les gens ne veulent pas se réconcilier. Les gens veulent bien se réconcilier. Pour ma part, je n'ai jamais eu de mal à me réconcilier avec qui que ce soit. Mais pas de la manière dont ça se passe là, car on n'entend qu'une partie de la vérité.
only a part.
Ntse ba bolela ne ntse re lla ibile ka mokgona ba bola ka teng ne re ba imagine ba di mo pela rena ba ba ira dilo tse ba ba irang tsona so ntho e re tshwere ene nna e balo le boshiu pela ka ne ipita very fast e se le kutlwa yona ntho boroko ba ka ne bole boima ne ke sa robale ibile le ko mmelo le gona bana o ka utlwa le voice ya e hosi tloela nako eo a ke kgone go emela taba teng ka baka la botlhoko excel ke butlwa ka tšatši leo ka be ka dumo gore nka be motlhomo a ka ya ka mokgono le botlhoko ka teng
Mama Kope.
Nna re nyaka gore at least ba re ise mo ba ba boletseng mo teng wa itse re ye ngwana ka mpone gore ke tlile mmakašo because ne ke robetse ke nakong ke a mmona so hampulediswa wa bona o mphitlhetse sefatlhego ge nka mogo ke tla ba beterenyana
wa bona gore bothata keng rena re utlwile botlhoko a kere ene ke tshepa gore mmuso le wane utlwile botlhoko a kere mare fela botlhoko ba bona bo tshwanele ba rena bona he ba re ba tshwarele ba re ba tshwarele gore dilo di fele
go bolela nnete nna ba ntšhitela ene ba nkutlwisa botlhoko lo feta a ke tsenke ba e bereka ka mkhomong ba sano re tshwarele as simple as that Mandela a solwa ke motho Tutu a solwa ke motho bathong ge nke ba swetse I don't think nke ba e beile taba ya amnesty
ke na di nnete gore gona bjanong he mmuso o ka buela mo national a kere batho ba ba tshwaretse they are going to repeat the very same thing mara he le gore ba utlwile botlhoko ba tlo tshaba ba re kana re tlo kry-a straff se se bjana ba utlwisise ba tlo itse gore straff se se bjana re tlo se kry-a mara he le gore bjanong ba tswela pele ba tshwarelwa he a re itse gore next time mmuso o tla bole mo tlasamang a kere
in future ba tshwarele motho o mongwe le o mongwe a tlo bolayang motho o tla tshwanela go isiwa bjang toronkong o a bolaileng ba ba 1000 a tshwaretswe so a ke utlwisise gore mmuso wa rena o tlo ba bjang in future
I'll get the details from you afterwards, okay?
Or you can get it from any, because I might have to sit. Yeah, but fax the details and receipts and whatever receipts you've got to Eunice daughter and we'll sort it out. Okay. Yeah, but that's the process. Unfortunately.
Eunice daughter, is that the lady?
No, that's the guy.
This CDC.
Mrs. Zili, if you can just repeat after me. Sorry, my name is Dr. Rendera. I'm a commissioner based here in the Johannesburg office. If you will just repeat after me, I swear that the story I'm about to tell is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Thank you very much, Mrs. Zili.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Mrs. Zili, if we can move on to the actual death of Stanza Bopati. Now, according to your statement, this was on the 12th of June 1988. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Could you just explain again to us how you actually use this machine?
In kort kom dit daarop neer, 2 kontakpunte word op die persoon se lyf geplaas. En dan word die slinger met kort tussenposes gedraai. Die tyd wat hy draai, gee die skokimpulse. As jy dink aan die ou tyd, het jy daai slinge gedraai om die sentrale in die hande te kry. Dan lê jy by die sentrale en dan vra hulle wat 'n nommer soek jy en dan skakel jy jou deur na die nommer toe.
Could you tell me that in terms of the police code, was this normal, accepted practice? Was this part of your duties?
Ja, ek dink om die vraag te antwoord, dit was 'n aanvaarbare metode om inligting uit persone te kry. Maar ek het genoem oor wêreldwyd, want ons in die polisiemag het dit tog van die wêreld oorgeerf.
Kan u vir my sê waar u op hierdie opgelei is asseblief?
Die skokmetode het ek geleer van my eerste jaar in die polisiemag. Het ek dit teëgekom. Daarom sê ek, dit is 'n algemene praktyk om inligting uit onwillige verdagte te kry.
Would you agree, Mr. Zili, that the methods that you use to extract information, either in the general or the specific, and I'm talking about whether you were directly or indirectly involved, were illegal methods? They were against the law?
Ja, ek sal sê dit was teen die wet, ja. Maar, soos ek reeds gesê het, dit was algemene prosedure tydens ondervragings.
Did you have a sense that if something happened, you would be covered by your superior officer, that your actions would be condoned? Did you have the license to do these kind of things?
Elke ondergeskikte kyk op na sy bevelvoerder bo hom en hy sal optree hoe sterk sy bevelvoerder hoor om voorgee te wees. As jy 'n bevelvoerder het wat jy deur jou optrede onder sy bevel, weet jy, as iets gebeur, dan sal hy my bystaan. Ek voel, ek het opgetree om hierdie land te dien, wat huidiglik in die regering was. En niemand kan dit van my wegvat nie. Dit is onregverdig om te wil sê dat dit kan nie in ag geneem word nie, want dit was my beweegrede.
I have one more question to ask you, which is that from what you have said, you express an understanding of how most people in the force at that time thought. But the politicians are saying that you acted completely on your own, and that in fact they never gave people the license to commit violations. Can you give me some kind of response on that issue?
Maar daar was vir jou van wag om die inligting te kry en hulle het geweet op watter maniere daai inligting gekry word. En daar is nooit, maar nooit, die enige senior persoon is daar gesê, luister, jy mag nie so iets doen nie. Tereg het die meneer daai kant gesê, die polisie, die kommissaris, skryf dinge se uit, en almal teken dat jy mag nie mense aanrand nie, jy mag nie dit doen, jy mag nie dat doen nie. Maar, stilswygend, verwag daai selfde kommissaris, ek moet nog daai terroris aan die man bring. En nou praat ek in die ou taal. Hy het dit nog van my verwag. En dis waarom hy op daai stadium bereid was om hierdie hele ding toe te smee. So, daarom sê ek, tog het hulle die toestemming gegee daarvoor. Want op die einde van die dag, as 'n saak opgelos was, dan was dit hy wat bo gestaan het en gesê het, ons het 'n saak opgelos. En ek het nie die eer gekry daarvoor nie. Hy het dit gekry bo.
If South Africa had been a country
Si l'Afrique du Sud avait été un pays comme la Libye ou un autre pays où régnait un totalitarisme absolu, dans le contexte de la guerre froide, elle n'aurait pas pu obtenir de protection de la part des puissances occidentales. L'Afrique du Sud a été protégée à un point étonnant par l'Angleterre et les États-Unis et à un moindre degré par certains pays d'Europe. Et si ce pays avait abandonné la notion d'état de droit, d'une société gouvernée par la justice, ses alliés auraient eu beaucoup de mal à empêcher son isolement total. Mais même les lois les plus répressives, des lois qui autorisent la détention sans procès, le bannissement, l'extradition, la condamnation à mort, ou la condamnation sur preuve falsifiée, toutes ces lois draconiennes et répressives ne pouvaient pas étouffer la révolution qui se préparait. Le gouvernement à ce stade avait deux choix possibles. Un, abolir les lois et dire nous allons combattre cette révolution, tuer des gens, assassiner des gens. C'était impossible pour deux raisons. Un, ça aurait entraîné l'isolement international du pays. Deux, l'idée même d'état de droit aurait disparu. Or, beaucoup de politiciens blancs dans cette société blanche avaient besoin de croire que l'Afrique du Sud était encore un pays civilisé et se refusaient à croire que ça n'en était pas un. Alors, on s'est retrouvé dans une situation bizarre où il y avait les lois de l'apartheid qui étaient elles-mêmes racistes et discriminatoires, mais aussi un ensemble de lois non écrites qui disaient qu'on pouvait combattre la révolution par tous les moyens, que la révolution devait être écrasée à n'importe quel prix.
I think it's that side.
That side.
Yeah.
So you must note the first 24 are in boxes. The first 24.
Some white man.
He agrees to that.
But you see, it's about then setting a framework of what was the political line of responsibility, who were responsible for decision making, because if you read the next few paragraphs, it talks about during this period the police and the military begin to play an important role in the situations of national emergency. Then he said they had the main responsibility, but you talk about they in isolated terms as if they don't form any part of a structure which is accountable to a government.
National Party is prepared to accept responsibility for the policies that it adopted and the actions taken by its office bearers in the implementation of those policies. It is, however, not prepared to accept responsibility for the criminal actions of a handful of operatives of security forces of which the party was not aware and which it would have never have condoned. Now, I think that that's actually essentially disingenuous because, and I think that the point we need to make here is take the question of torture. Because we have in our database now 5,000 acts of torture, 95% of them are attributable to the security forces, and the rates of torture during the state of emergency doubled and tripled. The state of emergency was voted for and approved at the State Security Council and the Cabinet by members of the National Party. There is a direct causal relation between the state of emergency and brutal torture of thousands and thousands of people. And I think that it must be an area where we put that there and say, boom, torture, you voted for the state of emergency.
Are we asking him to respond for the organization that he represents, or are we asking him to talk in his own right?
FW de Klerk. He's been in cabinet for 20 years, and so he cannot avoid taking responsibility for anything that happened when he wasn't in cabinet.
When he claims that he has no knowledge of these illegal acts, etc., etc., the State Security Council minutes show that he was in the meeting. Now, he may have been sleeping, but he was in the meeting. You know, so I really don't think we must let him walk away from these past events. We've got to say, you're talking for the National Party, and if you are the head of the National Party, you can't just say it's somebody else. You've got to go and get that information if you don't have it.
Till the opposite is proven, we must accept de Klerk's integrity in putting forth the statements. And if he says, I did not have access to that, we must be, if it's really important to us, we must forewarn him that concerning your answer to that question, we really need the information. Can you please access that?
The nub of the questioning must be, as the head of state, you knew or you should have known, and if you didn't know, unfortunately you can't say, I'm not responsible. As the head of a political party, you take responsibility for whatever happened during your mandate.
I would like to welcome you very warmly to this gathering of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
Yasmin Suga. Most of the cases quoted to you, it really is people at a very high-ranking level who've done the authorization. Many of them are generals. At their level, they are much closer to cabinet. What would account for their misunderstanding or their misinterpretation of policy? Surely they would have a clearer vision of what government policy is on these kind of issues.
It was a policy, there's a revolutionary onslaught. This revolutionary onslaught must be withstood. The goals of the revolutionaries are to overthrow the government, to make the country ungovernable. It needs strong measures. And then it would be operationalized in the sense that then the minister and the director general or the commissioner or the head of the defense force would on a specific issue develop a wider sort of guidelines to say, now this is the framework. We need to start an operation to address a specific problem. This is the framework for such an operation. That would not come to me, that would not come to anybody, that would be between the minister and the director general. Then, either through overzealousness or through a mala fide approach, whatever the motivation might be of an individual involved where things get out of hand, where it wasn't foreseen that it should happen. Yes, the operation was authorized. Go and catch the people who are illegally moving from South Africa to be trained by Umkhonto. Prevent them from going. So such an order might have been given. I'm just using an example which has been used in questions. Then the people who catch them don't only catch them, they don't only prevent them from doing so. That's one possibility. And I think that is the logical possibility.
Thank you. Just one more question, Archbishop, on the question of torture. You're offering us an explanation that, in fact, these things were committed by a few individuals. And I think in your own submission, you talk about a few mavericks. But I think we are faced with insurmountable evidence that it, in fact, was widespread across the security forces. Yes. And I think that's the point that we want to bring home. You've proffered an explanation, and we want to test that explanation.
When I say that there was a maverick element which was relatively small, which did all these dastardly deeds, that I'm not then including in that general practices such as hitting a prisoner with a fist, slapping him, kicking him around in order to frighten him to get evidence. That is widespread. And that has been widespread, and it's widespread in all countries. It doesn't make it right, but it's a fact. It's a problem that you have to deal with in each and every police force. But murder and assassination was not, the best of my experience, something which was widespread. That is why I'm blatantly honest with you when I say I'm as shocked as you are about these many revelations.
Since then, we have listened to a number of cases which took place in South Africa. During the last months, did you at any time weigh up, at least weigh up the possibility of applying for amnesty?
The short answer to that is yes. I have looked very carefully at the question, and I've actually made a public statement on it where I dealt with my reasons for not doing so. Amnesty is there to get a pardon for a crime of which you believe you could be found guilty if you were charged in court. And I think that is the explanation which was given by the Commission itself. Amnesty is not there. That is not the correct channel in which to express your sorrow, your acceptance of responsibility, your repentance for things which are not crimes. And I have not been involved in anything which can constitute any form of credible charge that I've been guilty of any crime.
I don't want to argue this matter. I'm just saying that in light of the overall legacy of apartheid, let's accept that apartheid is over, but the legacy of apartheid is such that to try and reach reconciliation in this country, every attempt should be made to accept fundamental responsibility. But you've made that point, and I thank you for your answers.
Now, the general apathy on the part of the whites.
L'attitude générale des Blancs consiste à prétendre qu'ils ne faisaient pas partie du mécanisme répressif, alors que bien évidemment ils le servaient. Chaque jeune homme blanc faisait son service dans l'armée. Il y avait la conscription, et chaque blanc a dû servir dans l'armée de l'apartheid. Mais je vous garantis que si on leur en parle, ils disent c'était la loi, j'étais forcé de servir la machine à tuer de l'apartheid, je ne suis pas responsable, je suis innocent. Si on parle de réconciliation, la communauté blanche doit cesser de nier. Elle doit renoncer à tous ces mécanismes de défense qu'elle construit. Mais à part ça, le système n'est pas mis en cause. Les Blancs pourraient saisir cette chance. Ils pourraient reconnaître avec nous et avec tout le monde que l'apartheid a été un crime contre l'humanité. Et à partir de là, qu'allons-nous faire ensemble pour réparer? Ils ne sont pas prêts à ça. Le monde des affaires ne réagit même pas à la question des besoins ou des problèmes des victimes. Le monde des affaires reste silencieux. Mais si on s'interroge sur les intérêts, je vous réponds que la main-d'œuvre noire était bon marché. Alors si on parle de vérité et de réconciliation, très peu de vérité s'est révélée. La plupart se cachent derrière le fait que ce système existait, mais qu'ils l'ignoraient. Tout ce qu'ils ont fait, c'est d'être là. Toutes ces dénégations s'abordent les raisons de réconciliation.
The remains of the bodies that was taken out from the farm at Oliver Wolf.
That's correct.
From now on, what's going to happen? What's the process?
Right. 4 complete skeletons were removed. First step was to clean the bones, remove all the excess soil, grass roots and so on. The second step will be to reconstruct the skulls. As you can see, the skulls all show varying degrees of damage. This is both for identification purposes and to establish identity. Once identification is completed, and this is largely dependent on the goodwill of the corporation and families, the remains will be returned to them. Dit is nie baie skoon nie, né?
apartheid is mild. Tom and I and Fikile are on the committee who work with reparation, and we said one of the most important things that we need to recognize is there need to be exhumations and reburials of people who disappeared, and when the graves are discovered, the families would probably say, we will have no peace, we will have no rest before the bodies are brought back to the family. We try to guess what your feelings must be, but it's difficult to guess because we're not in the position. Because your son, and you know what the pain of the months and the years behind you. But we really admire you, and it's a privilege to be with you.
Well, I think this he acted according to what his name is. His name is Mpaka Moholo. Mpaka Moholo means the big knife.
The big knife.
Yeah, it means the sword. Well, he actually went into this struggle. We had no way of knowing where he had gone to. But I think the struggle that was to come in 1976 could have been simmering for a long time. And when he left, he knew exactly what was going to happen. Now, he went away, and later, in about 3 years' time, he surreptitiously came back into the country. He wouldn't come down to the place where I was working. Probably feared could have been intercepted by the police, so we had to come home and wait for him. He did arrive that night. So he started collecting the things, because when he left with nothing. So the mother had bought him a suitcase. He came in and collected these things. He didn't stay long.
He didn't stay to eat with you?
No, I don't remember if he did have anything to eat. Not have anything to eat. On and on it went. 82, 83, 84. Now, today, we got the good news that his remains have been found. We are not happy, but we are relieved. But at least we know. That's how far I can go.
Je suis né en Afrique. Ma famille y est depuis le début du 19e siècle. C'était des colons allemands qui ont atterri à King Williamstown. Je ne veux pas quitter l'Afrique. Je ne comprends pas les Européens et leur manière de vivre. Je n'ai pas eu l'occasion de voyager. Ça a été difficile pour nous ces derniers temps avec toutes les enquêtes menées contre nous. J'ai dû réduire mon activité professionnelle. J'avais une fabrique d'armes importante qui travaillait pour les services spéciaux et d'autres unités de police, de l'armée, etc. Voici l'emblème des escadrons de la mort. Celui-ci m'a été remis pour bon et loyaux service. On dit que notre manière d'opérer était illégale. À l'époque, il n'y avait pas de déclaration des droits de l'homme dans ce pays. Cette histoire de violation des droits de l'homme, il faudrait d'abord qu'on soit éduqué sur le sujet, parce que c'est étranger à l'Afrique.
we had our laws.
Nous avions nos lois.
And we had a war.
Il y avait une guerre.
And in warfare, there are no rules.
Dans une guerre, il n'y a pas de règles. La seule règle, c'est de ne pas perdre. S'il y avait eu une guerre déclarée, ce serait différent aujourd'hui. Mais il y avait une société qui vivait bien, qui profitait des bénéfices de l'apartheid. Pendant que nous étions là dehors, que nous ne dormions pas, que nous opérions dans des conditions très inconfortables pour maintenir les politiciens au pouvoir, pour maintenir le système en place. Et ces gens-là, qui sont restés où ils sont grâce à nous, nous tournent le dos maintenant. Ils disent qu'ils ne savaient pas ce que nous faisions. Ils disent, ces gens avaient leur propre programme. Si on s'intéresse tant soit peu à ce qui s'est passé ici, il faut poser une question simple. Si ces gens avaient leur programme, aujourd'hui, en Afrique du Sud, je ne sais pas s'il y a des centaines ou des milliers de témoignages. Ça pourrait concerner toute l'armée et la police. Comment ces hommes auraient-ils pu agir sans avoir de compte à rendre à leurs supérieurs ou aux politiciens? D'où venaient les fonds? Les escadrons de la mort étaient responsables devant le QG des services spéciaux. Le pouvoir ne s'intéressait-il pas à ce qu'ils faisaient chaque jour? Pourquoi des membres des escadrons ont-ils reçu des décorations et des citations pour bravoure et bon service? Pour quel motif?
During the amnesty process, many of the applicants told what they committed during that period. So many of the Kulumani members were promised that remains of their loved ones are buried somewhere, and then they will be taken to those very same spots where these people have been murdered, and then there they would start now some negotiations whereby those remains would be exhumed and given to the families who are the survivors and be reburied. So unfortunately, this hasn't yet, in fact, happened. And this now has sort of caused a lot of problems for the organization and has caused trauma in some families, whereby now the families wanted really to know what is going on, what is Kulumani doing in relation to this very problem, and what do we expect from the TRC.
Michael Matelete, ule anyamela ka 1990 ka March. So veki kile ka ngorisa statement ka ya ho TRC ila promise hore etla ne empatlise yena, and ha o thola hala re ke nete o hlokafetse ba tla re romella masapo re tlo mo pata o tlo ipatela. So ho fihlela hona jwale ha hona mix into e tswelang pele a gole ke ka bokgutshwanyana hakale.
He di hearings di ya Pretoria ba tla re fa bonnete re ile Pretoria ha ba re fa bonnete gore molato wa gore taba ya rena ha ya buiwa nix ho no bua fela taba ya bana ba ko Ndebele ba ba 9 ba le ba tlhokofala rena ba re ni Fredinti ba ba 10 ha ba bua nix gore ba re khotsofatse ka gore di doctor tse ho le masole a go ba ile gore ba tla go tseba he ba ka tla ba dula so gore ba re jwetsa nang ba ya ba re tseya ba risa ko bana ba go ba boletseng motlhomo rena batho ba Mamelodi re tlo khotsofala ka gore gona ba rena batho ba Mamelodi ba bangata ba swapera re bula go boloka ba batswadi ba ballang ka bana ba bona gona ba no ba bang ba kule he re bolela so ba go dipetlela and then ba re gore ba no re tlo shwa sinki re boloke marapo a bana ba ba rena ba nna ntse re rata rena bo mme ba re ni Fredinti ba bana ba bona ba tlhokofetseng ka setlhogo ba lokela di bombo tse more than 25 ba explode lona ba no le rena gore bo batswadi ba rena kore re patlosha ha ona le muana tlo mmolokang ka re rena ba re loketse ka mara le botlolo ba re bietse thoko ha ba sa re bone hore ke ntho e re lang hangata ka yona rena batho ba mmileng.
Their child died for what we are today in South Africa, of which I think they were supposed to be given first preference.
Yeah, well, Duma, the thing is, first preference or not first preference, as you know, this is a government of compromise. If, honestly, we have to look at reconciliation and amnesty, it sort of leaves some bad taste in somebody's mouth, you know. All right, in relation to reconciliation, yes, even now I still say that I do agree that we have to reconcile. But, you know, this problem of amnesty and the bishop begging people to come forward to apply for amnesty and then he'll grant them amnesty, this is the problem I'm quite having. And it seems that it's just going to be blanket amnesty.
They have promised us since last year in the amnesty hearings that they'll show us the scene where they've murdered them. Then they'll give us the remains. We've got a problem because we want them. If we can just make a monument, put all our remains inside, not bury them, I think I'll have to suggest that, because burying them, it seems we are putting everything away. Coming to our generations to come, they will never understand. For instance, if I say to my grandchildren, your grandfather was murdered, tortured, and exploded, they won't understand. But if there are some remains somewhere, then show them, tell them the story, then maybe they'll understand better in the near future.
Il est très difficile de contenter les individus. En fin de compte, qu'est-ce qu'on peut leur rendre pour compenser les droits qu'ils ont perdus? Je pense qu'on devrait s'engager à leur donner une partie de la vérité des faits. La réparation ne doit pas être seulement financière, elle doit être avant tout une reconnaissance. Pour moi, c'est un aspect important. L'Afrique du Sud a besoin de reconnaître le prix élevé qu'ont payé les victimes pour nous amener à la démocratie d'aujourd'hui. Je pense que les criminels s'en tirent à bon compte. Et que la générosité montrée par les victimes, leur ouverture pour créer les bases d'une nouvelle relation, ne sont pas partagées par leurs bourreaux. Et je commence à regretter. Je ne suis pas loin de dire qu'il aurait fallu une guerre pour que les gens puissent mesurer le prix payé pour la liberté. Je crois que l'Afrique du Sud blanche perd une occasion de participer à la nouvelle direction que ce pays doit prendre. Et ça a des répercussions sérieuses sur le travail de la Commission, parce que ça n'apparaît pas, leur intention de régler le problème honnêtement. Ils viennent seulement confirmer ce qu'ils pensent que nous avons déjà révélé, et je trouve ça effrayant. Je ne crois pas qu'il y ait un véritable engagement de leur part à faire fonctionner la démocratie. En un sens, je dois dire que ça n'a pas été une expérience très agréable pour moi. Mais ça renforce ma détermination à poursuivre âprement la découverte de la vérité. C'est ce qui m'aide à continuer. L'idée que tout doit se savoir.
On behalf of the Commission, I would really like to explain, first of all, why are we here. Today, I must say, we are grateful to God that we are here with a certain element of truth as to what happened to Abraham Makilane, who was 17 years in 1986, Samuel Masilela, who was 16 years, Sipho Sibanyoni, who was 15 years, Jeremiah Nduli, who was 17 years, Thomas Piri, who was 22 at the time, Jeremy Makakula, who was 16 years, Morris Kabinde, who was 19 years, Roybert Haldenays, the age is not given, Stephen Makena, who was 18, Elliot Sateche, who was 20. Our difficult past made it possible for security forces at the time to have powers to arrest, to have powers to detain, to have powers to kill, to have powers to bury people almost alive. It's difficult to say young people are heroes, but this is one of the things which as a committee it's important to do on an ongoing basis with families which will never die. I thank you for your courage, and I hope this hour is going to be a healing session of some kind. I thank you.
All right. We are going to request one of the police officers who first visited the scene.
Yeah.
So, pleke e re emeng mo go yona ke pleke e tiragalo e botlhokwa e diragaletseng mo teng. Ha ke gopola sentle le ka 1986, it was on a Friday, but I kgone go gopola date gore ke. So, ke ka mokgwa nna ke fitlhetse go le ka teng. Ya no na re la ke bona tiragalo e ne nna ntse ke bona. Gore bana ba tshile lore ha o no ba tshwara bana ba tshologa ne le molora all two ba botlhe. So ne le the stomach fela e ne setse mo go bona. Ke ra ke bikinyana fela nka le tlhalosetsang gore go diragetse.
Ka nna re ke mang?
Modisane.
Ka botlalo.
Se ne o Filmon Modisane. E ne le tiragalo e tshosang tota. Go bontsha batho ba ba boleileng batho ba ene le the professional killers, because all the clues tse di neng di ka re thusa to gore leadela go the arrest of the possible suspect di ne di tlositswe for scene of crime. And then ra etsa arrangement ya gore those charred bodies di tseiwe di iswe go Safas go Rustenburg. Tota di ile di tseiwa, and then the Kumbi was taken to Madiko police station. In sebaka more or less 8 years le go Madiko police station, although at this stage a gitso se le go etsagalang ka yone because in e handilwe in ya exhibit. And docket ya bulwa ya murder 10 counts because we could not detect gore batho ba ba swetseng ka fale ke ba ba ka re ne re khona go bona ka this chart skulls gore re bala about 10 bodies tse ne di ka be di le ka fale. And ke suspecta gore ko mortuary di bodies tsa batho ba di ile di eletswa a pauper's funeral because di ne di sa itsewe.
We know that where blood has fallen, wherever it may be, of a human being, what do? We take water, we go and wash that blood. And you are part of the strong parents, you know, the survivors and people who offered us those sons so that by their blood we can enjoy freedom. And then we'll come and just all directions. Stand back a little.
Anytime when you come there, okay, just collaborate. But you can't say let us communication. Yeah, bring it.
En moins de 3 ans, la Commission a examiné plus de 21 000 dépositions de violation des droits de l'homme et a enregistré 7 125 demandes d'amnistie. Malgré le manque de temps et de moyens, elle a réussi à brosser un tableau très précis de l'apartheid et révéler l'étendue insoupçonnée des crimes, des dégâts moraux et matériels. Le 29 octobre 1998, la Commission a remis son rapport final au président Nelson Mandela. Les principaux partis politiques en ont rejeté les conclusions les concernant. Il a fallu toute l'autorité de Mandela pour que ce texte soit rendu public. Ainsi, l'histoire est écrite et une mémoire préservée pour les générations futures. Pour le monde entier, ces travaux sans précédent sont désormais une référence.
Yeah.